Okay, this is my model Dave, and on Dave I want to show you some little tricks about how to cut a man's hair. And I'm not going to show you all the layering and the whole layered cut because you saw that on Judy's hair, and you can do the exact same cut on a man as you did on Judy's, only you can shorten it up using the techniques I use for a man. You can have it, the perimeter of her hair can be shorter, just layer it shorter, layer it back into the back, and just do basically a shorter cut if you wanted to. That's all Dave's is. It's just a shorter version of Judy's, only with a few little extra tricks that I'm going to show you around the sides. Okay, in the back, because this is already layered, what I'm going to do is comb this down. If it were long, you would part it off exactly the same way we did Judy's. Part it off until you run out of hair, and make sure you find your guidelines. And on men's haircuts, you really follow the hairline on a man's haircut, much more so than any other cut. So it's ultra important to be aware of growth pains on a man. So, and also of their lines. So what we're going to do is check their hairline, make sure that you know where it stops, because you don't want to cut way up into here. It looks really funny when you're cutting, having to clip off a whole bunch of extra hair. So you want to cut, if you want a pretty short cut, you're going to want to cut right on their hairline where the hair starts to thin out. You want to cut right about there, and that will give you a nice, thick, give you a lot of weight down at the base, give you a nice, thick look. Follow the comb down with your fingers, and we're going to remember to stop the fingers just before the line that you want to cut on. Cut straight across, and we're going to square off the back, and we're going to go back and round that off later. And we're just going to square that off. You notice my fingers are straight around the face. I'm not angling them up. I'm just keeping them straight, so this whole section will be squared off. Okay, the same thing we started in the center, just like all of our other haircuts. Turn the comb, get the hair nice and flat, just like paper. Find that first section we just cut straight across, and I'm following around so that the cut will be straight. This will be squared off, and then we'll go back and round it out in a minute. Okay, to get it to come in to the head, unlike Judy's, she has a little bit of weight in the back. So what we're going to do is cut out more of that weight on a man's haircut. So we're going to come down to the center, pull this out, and this time we're going to have our fingers a lot closer to the neckline. We're going to have an idea of leaving just a small amount of weight, but not as much. So we're going to have our fingers closer to the neck, to the nape. We'll cut straight up again, having our fingers straight up, because we still want that cube idea. We still, even on a really short man's cut, we want that frown on the front. And you're going to find your guideline, do it exactly the same way. You find your guideline, a little bit of the old section, a little bit of the new section, pull it straight out, cut straight up till you run out of hair. Now if this were a lot longer in the crown, like I said, you would part it off right about here and do it exactly the way we did Judy's, only you'd have your fingers closer in here. Find your guideline. We just cut that guideline right there. Remember, if you can't find your guideline, what you're doing is you're moving your fingers too far to the left or too far to the right. So cut straight up on that guideline until you run out of hair. Cut straight up, find your guideline, cut on it, not into it. We'll cut this hair later. We're going to cut this hair in a minute, this hair that comes around and flips out. So don't try to cut that off yet. Don't worry about that hair. We're going to take care of that in just a minute. We're just going to pull this out, straight out from the head, cut off any extra hair that you need to. We're going to come around and do the exact same thing on the other side, just pulling it out, finding our guideline, which is right here. You can see that short hair there. Cutting that straight off. We're holding our fingers straight out. And if it's easier for you to put your fingers like this, that's fine. You can hold them either way. I was holding mine the other way to help you to see what I'm doing easier. But you can pull it straight out and cut up like this if you want to, if it's more comfortable. Either way. But your angles need to be right. If your angles on your fingers are not right, either way you're holding your hands, it won't work. Just take a small section, part that off, and what you'll need to do is put your scissors right at the top of the ear. What you want to do is put your scissors right there at the top of the ear. And this time you're not going to be using your fingers. You're just going to use your scissors. Top of the ear and cut. And just follow the shape of the ear all the way around until you come to the sideburns. Now is when you want to cut those sideburns wherever you want to. It doesn't matter if they're longer or shorter, whatever. Then you just blend that corner. Cut the sideburns, cut the top of the ear, sideburns, and then blend. Okay, now is when you move the ear out of the way and comb the hair with the wide teeth of the comb. Comb it loosely so you can see how it lays, because that's the way it's going to lay when it's dry, remember? And this is called, but don't be afraid, because what we're going to do is just follow the back of the ear. And we'll just take our scissors and follow that back of the ear just right around and get to the point you're cutting out a 1/2 inch to 1/4 of an inch behind the ear, depending on how short you want this. But when you get to this point about mid-ear, then you want to go straight down with your scissors. And see how nice, even, tight line you get? Every time you comb this hair, that line's going to change unless you're combing this. What I'm doing is combing with the wide teeth of the comb, letting the hair lay, fall the way it's going to lay, loosely. And that way you can go back and check and make sure that you got all the little hairs even. Straight down. Then what you do, because you've got a square line here, you pull the hair down and see there's a corner here. And that corner you don't want to leave because that will flip up. So what you do is you come along and just cut that corner off. And all that does is round the haircut out. And you've got a nice, even haircut. Tidy everything up. And I'm going to show you on this side because Dave's hair is dry. Sometimes clippers don't cut as well on wet hair, so I'm going to show you on dry hair. And I'm using a guard, a clipper guard. And it's handy to have if you aren't comfortable with using a scissor over comb method. And you can just push the hair away right where you want the hair to be thinned out. You can take that guard. The guard will keep the clippers away from the head enough, but gradually move the clippers out as you move up, because the guard will protect you from cutting too much hair off. So you move that guard up, and you need to go against the grain of the hair sometimes. If the hair is really strong forward growth pattern, then you would clip in this way. And what we want to do, we'll go back and clean it up with the scissors. What we want to do is come in on the side with the clippers, and then we're going to finish it off with our fingers and the scissors and the comb. But this way you'll get a nice tight sideburn look. Comb that forward. Free cut again with your scissors and cut real close, but just follow the hairline. See what I did was just take off those corners and follow that hairline down. Now if you did want to attempt, and you can do it, attempt free cutting with the scissor over comb method, you pull the hair out with the scissors, angle the comb out, and cut off the hair that's sticking out on that side. But you need to angle the comb out. If you leave it in, you cut way too much hair off. You can angle that out and cut in until you come up just a little ways. You don't want to cut up too far. If you'd rather do it that way, and you can do it either way. You can do it with the clippers, and then you can angle your comb in from the face, cut down, in from the face, cut down. What I'm doing that for is I just cut a line this way, and then I'm cutting off the point. I'm just cutting off the point so that will blend, and there won't be a cut line here and a cut line here. What I did was just angle that off and cut the point off. Also, you can do that, blend this with fingers. You can pull that out cut straight up. And you notice when cutting there, the short of a hair style, we're holding the fingers right next to the head, absolutely right on the head. And that way he gets about as much length as my finger width, which on a man's haircut looks really good because you want it real short and real tight around the face. Also on the top, what we did with Dave is cut it just exactly in the square that we did Judy's. We did the cube cut. All layering is cut exactly the same way, only on Dave's we cut it shorter. We simply cut it down closer and closer in the back. And then we went around, cut off the points. Okay, we'll go ahead and finish Dave's haircut off camera, and then we'll come back and show you the finished cut. Okay, here we have our model Dave, finished and dried with a little gel in it. And with just a few simple techniques used for men's hair cutting on the side and in the back, you can get the same layered cut that we gave Judy and adapt it to a man. And doesn't he look great?